We've seen the polls change pretty dramatically, literally over the past week or 2 weeks when it comes to the Liberals federally and Mark Carney specifically involved in this Liberal leadership race. Sebastien Dallaire, Executive VP over at Leger, is on the line. And this is a new poll, again, just coming out now. So let's kind of deal with this one piece at a time, Sebastien. Let's start with Mark Carney. So what started off as a pretty, I think fair to say, even race, along with Chrystia Freeland, I don't think many people saw a difference then, has very much changed, in the polls show it as far as Carney's concerned, right?
Yeah, early on, while he was in the lead in some of the polls when we asked either members of the general population or Liberal supporters who they felt would be the best leader moving forward. But what we've noticed over the past few weeks is all of a sudden, Mark Carney is clearly pulling ahead. And he's clearly the front runner, both among Canadians in general and even more so among Liberal supporters. So that's a very big lead, to say the least.
So that's in terms of support for the Liberal leadership. Again, I should point out, we tend to look at these things and go, wow, things have really changed. There will be debates coming up, at least 2 next week, possibly 2 more after that. Things can always change. But for the Liberal Party in general, maybe that's the biggest takeaway here. How much his entering the race, if we can actually say it's just that, or how much what's going on now vis-a-vis the U.S. and these tariffs has made a difference, but it has helped clearly the Liberals more than any other party.
Yeah, it's a confluence of factors. It's hard to know how this will play out in coming weeks. A lot remains to be played out. But what we're noticing is, as even without Mark Carney, the Liberals are gaining more support simply because in a situation like this one where the country as a whole is now threatened with economic hardship, the threat clearly comes from the United States. It's not internal. And when that happens, voters tend to rally around the flag a bit. We see a rise in national pride, and people in those cases turn to the people in power to try to defend us. And it certainly makes it more difficult for opposition parties to find a grip with public opinion in circumstances like this, where they need to be careful. It's hard to attack Justin Trudeau the way you used to when the enemy is clearly south of the border. So makes it more difficult for them. But on top of this, it seems like, as you mentioned, Mark Carney himself is also making a difference. At this point, more likely that his background, his pedigree, was the head of the Bank of Canada, the head of the Bank of England, in a situation where the economy is the main issue, where the threats are about the tariff threats or all the threats that are now coming our way are really about the economy. There's no doubt that his background is playing a key role right now for him.
So we have a couple of unique things actually going on right now. Number one, we have a prorogue parliament. So you're not getting the back and forth every day that you might be from the opposition, or maybe they'd all be chiming in saying the same thing. We'll never know that because it's going to stay this way apparently for a while. And number two, beyond that, let's talk about what this was like. Only, a month and a half ago, or January 6th, I guess was the day, when Justin Trudeau announced he resigned, because it seems to me, Sebastien, we saw a poll come out fairly soon after that suggesting Liberal support as a party had gone up just because he had resigned.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau came to embody the Liberal brand over time, and it's not unheard of. We saw the same thing, and I know for voters we're going way back, but when Brian Mulroney was in power, end of his second term after 2 consecutive strong majorities, Brian Mulroney himself became very unpopular. And when there was a change in leadership with Kim Campbell, all of a sudden the party's fortunes turned around. Initially, there was quite a massive shift back then. But when the election happened, that kind of disappeared, and eventually the Liberals took power with Jean Chrétien. But we did see a bit of the same situation back then when you have a leader that really embodies the government. People associate the government with a certain leader. It's pretty much it's very common for that to happen. So Justin Trudeau became very unpopular. So his departure lifted the party in and of itself. And now we have a situation where we need a stronger government. We need to talk about the economy. And let's be fair to Chrystia Freeland, she also has strong economic background, and so she could be trusted. But the difference between Freeland and Carney right now is one is about change. The other one would be a little bit more continuity. So for Chrystia Freeland, it's a bit harder to say things would be very different when she was the finance minister for so long and such a key member of the Liberal government. Whereas for Mark Carney, he does come in from the outside. It's easier for him to embody change a little bit.
Yeah, it's easy. It's also fun to note how the opposition, at least in this case, the Conservatives have decided that, the attack will be against Carney now, focused on him, not on Chrystia Freeland. But again, saying, this idea of, well, you've been so close to the Prime Minister, and you're right. Chrystia Freeland has, been there for 9 years. But of course, the argument from the Conservatives is, well, for all intents and purposes, Mark Carney has been advising this government for probably just as long. But that's expected, I guess, in a fight. So maybe that's not a surprise. I wonder if you could, Sebastien, just try to explain now, with this new support for the Liberals, how close is this potential race if there was an election to be held now?
Well, right now we're seeing it's equality. So it's 37-37 when we introduce Mark Carney as the leader of the Liberal Party. Again, lots to be played out, so this is just a hypothetical at this moment in time. But it does tell us that his presence has completely changed the race. There's no doubt about this. So if you're a Liberal supporter, this is great news. If you're a Conservative supporter or an NDP supporter, this is not good news right now. But a campaign will be a time when all of a sudden it won't be only about Mark Carney's pedigree and his background. It's going to be about who he is really, how does he talk, is he reassuring, is he someone we can trust? All those questions will start to appear once the spotlight is on him, if he does win the leadership. There's if, right? We still have a race. He's far ahead, but we'll let it,
Yeah, let the chips fall where they may. Yeah,
exactly. And then we can talk about that more. But so all this is hypothetical, but definitely good news. If you're a Liberal supporter, if you're a member of the party, that's looking good.
But, we talk Liberals, Conservatives. What about the other parties? Are they suffering because of this as well? Like, are the NDP and the Bloc losing support here as well, or have they held steady?
Well, they are as well. So when I mentioned it's hard for the opposition, that also includes the NDP, that includes the Bloc. It puts them in a strange situation because your usual foil for not just many months, but for many years has been Justin Trudeau, and all of a sudden he can't be the person you are attacking because you need to focus on our common adversary right now. And that really is not helping anyone, and it's clear from the polls that, unfortunately for NDP supporters, the NDP is not gaining any more traction. In fact, they've been going down, so the Liberals are taking away votes from the NDP, mostly from the Conservatives, but also from the NDP. And it's changing the race in some of the key battlegrounds. I mean, the big changes are in Ontario and in Quebec, and that's why it's also important, because the seat count could change significantly if the Liberals remain that strong. Like, not so long ago, we were even wondering if the Bloc could form the official opposition.
Right.
I mean, in the circumstances right now, that's clearly out of the question.
And that's where we leave it. Sebastien, I thank you so much. Appreciate the time as always.
My pleasure.
Sebastien Dallaire, Vice President at Leger.